computer. All right, so here we go. I'll let you put the numbers I'm doing. So even, odd, or neither. So you don't know that even function, odd function, neither.
Even.
Even and remember it. How many times it's touching that x-axis, or if it's symmetric to the y-axis, it's even. So it's definitely even. Odd function is going to touch it an odd number of times, or be symmetric to the origin. That's the one where you can flip it upside down and it looks the same on the pictures. So hopefully that's a free 5 points for you. But this we're going to describe how the graph of the function can be obtained from one of the basic graphs. Okay, so there's what, 7 or 8 basic graphs. You have the parabolas, the line graph, the cubes, that sort of curve. Okay, and that's the one I sent y'all email with the picture of the graphs on it 2 weeks ago or so. So it gives me g of x, and then I'll show you how I would do these on MATLAB. So first we'll figure out a basic graph. So this will have f of x equals blank. And then we'll figure out what the shifts are doing to it. So the basic graph, when you see that exponent 2, is going to be the parabolas or the quadratic x squared graphs. So the moves I'm worried about are what that 1's doing and what that 5's doing. So if you take the x inside the parentheses, you're going left to right. And when you add 1, you're actually going to the left, right? So remember, plus on the inside parentheses is left, minus inside parentheses is right, and then that plus 5 you said was going to go up. So shift left 1 unit. We said shift up 5 units. You know, if you're weak on that, graph that, you'll see where that graph is moved left and up and stuff like that, okay? So I'm just going to tell you how you would graph this in MATLAB. You click the picture that says enlarge graph. So the graph is, you would choose parabola tool. And this is the graph, when you choose that tool and you click it on the graph, it draws it for you. And then it's going to pop open a little box on the side that's going to have stuff like horizontal shift, vertical shift. So this one we would do horizontal. I would have to move it left to -1. And then my vertical shift, what we say was vertical up 5. So move that to a +5. Once you did them 2 moves, it's moving the graph for you, and then you're going, okay? All right, same thing, how can the graph be obtained from one of the basic graphs? This one we're given f of x equals square root of x plus 6. And this one they actually give you the picture of it, but I'll sort of draw what the picture will look like when you're done with this. Okay? So we want the basic graph. This one has f of x equals blank. And then we'll look at the only shift on this is what is that plus 6 doing to me. So the basic graph is a square root, because you see a square root sitting there. So it would be the square root of x. Okay. So what's that plus 6 doing to this graph? Because remember, that plus 6 is under that radical, which means it's like it's in parentheses. Now, if that plus 6 was on the outside of all this, it would do my up and down, but you said what, left? So it's definitely going to move left 6 units. So they'll have 4 pictures drawn, but what you're going to pick on this one, if I move left 6 units, that's going to kick it over to the x-axis over here, and it's just going to be a square graph going off, okay? Now they'll have 1 move left, they'll move 1 down 6, they'll move 1 right 6, and then 1 up 6. So they'll do all the moves with that one graph, okay? But that you can even graph that. Graph all these if you want to, and just see what's happening to them graphs, okay? Because all your basic graphs are centered right off that origin, right? The parabolas all started there, the cubes and all them, okay? So one more of these type of problems. So the same thing, we're given g of x equals negative parentheses x minus 6 squared plus 4. I'll start with g of x equals blank. And then we got a little bit going on this one, right? So the basic graph will be the x squared. So look here, I got this going on, and that. So this negative is going to do what?
Put your value inside the parentheses. It's going to change the sign of the value you have inside parentheses.
So it's going to change on the sign, but what's it, in reality, it's going to flip it over the x-axis. So it's going to reflect over the x-axis. And that's exactly why it's doing it, like you said, because it's changing all my positive values and throwing them all negative. So instead of being up here in my lines, it's shifting it all down. That negative 6. What is that doing to my graph? Since I'm inside the parentheses, I'm attacking that x.
Right.
I'm going to move it right 6 units. Y'all just remember, inside them parentheses, under the radicals, left or right on that. Then that 4. That's going to shift me. So see, this negative reverses the sign on all your answers. This plus 4 is adding 4 to every answer. So if you had a 0, it's a 4 now. If you had a 1, it's a 5. A 2, it's a 6. Like I said, just kicking them all up there, okay? So in MATLAB, I would choose the parabola tool again. So it looks like we'd like you to draw the parabola stuff, but we don't really care about the square root stuff and all that, right? So you're going to have to do the horizontal to what a move to 6. Because we said he's moving right 6. Vertical, move to 4, right? So we went up 4. And then I'm going to click a little box. Click, reflect over x-axis. Now they're going to fool you. There's also going to be one that says reflect over the y-axis, but we won't do that at all in this chapter. So ignore the y-axis stuff. Only one you can flip over at this point is the x, okay? So I'm pretty sure all of them are on this test. All right, find the zeros. Oh, I got f of v equals v squared plus 14v plus 45. So I'm gonna work on your factoring on this, but y'all can hit it with the quadratic formula anytime you got quadratic looking stuff. All you're gonna do is set this equal to 0. Remember, finding zeros is the same thing as finding solutions. It's also the same as my x-intercepts on my graphs. I sort of like factoring, so quad's easy. Function on the calculator. You can do the quad by hand on it. Factoring, I've got a v in the front of both of these. Since that 45 is positive, both of these signs will be positive, like that 14 in the middle. And can I find factors of 45 that add up to get 14? So now that we got it factored, we take both of them little factors and set them equal to, so I get what, a b plus 9 equals 0, b plus 5 equals 0. And you'll notice that the solutions are actually just opposite signs in those factors. All we're doing when we do this is changing the signs over, okay? So that one of my b's is a -9. One of my b's is a -5, okay? Factoring is not bad. It's the quickest way to get to solutions if you can find factors that equal them numbers, okay? All right, find the zeros. F of x equals 3x squared minus an x plus a 9. So I doubt that is going to factor because I got a plus back here. And I'd have to find factors of 3 times 9 is what, 27? Factors of 27 that add to get a 1. Not happening in the real world. So we're going to use our other buddy. I'm going to find A is 3, B is -1, and C is 9. So y'all can quad this or his calculator, just ask it for the zeros or the solutions. Remember, quadratic formula, -b. So I'm just going to put parentheses here for a minute. Plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So I'm plugging my a, b, and c real quick. B was -1. A was 3. And C was 9. So I'm just plugging all my numbers into that. So let's see what we get. A lot of work under the radical, remember. So I get a +1 because of the 2 negatives. -1 squared is 1. The right side, what sign will y'all put on that right side? So we're going to multiply all that together.
Negative.
I got 1 negative, so that whole side is going to stay negative. And then 4 times 3, ooh, that's 12. What's 12 times 9? 108.
9 minus 120.
Oh, so this was 120, 12 times 9?
Nine.
That's 108, right? 108. All over that 6. Oh, look at this. You're gonna have something under here, because you got a negative, big old negative number. So that's gonna equal 1 plus or minus square root of a negative 107 all over 6. So at this point, what can you do? Huh? I gotta pull that negative out, remember, because you cannot keep a negative under the radical. And then 107 looks like a prime number to me. I don't think it's gonna break down any and divide by any of my perfect squares. So since that 107 is prime, all we're gonna do is pull out that negative so that this will equal 1 plus or minus square root of negative 1 times square root of 107 all over 6. So what am I going to do with that negative 1? I want to turn that into an I. So let me draw my arrow up to here. Oh, I don't think you'll be able to see that, so I'm going to have to move over. So we're going to turn a negative into an I, so that's going to give me a 1 plus or minus I square root of 107 all over 6. Now, we got to do one more thing to this, because MATLAB is picky when you got imaginary answers like that. They want it broke into 2 different fractions. Unfortunately, the calculator leaves it as one big one. So in MATLAB, remember, this will be a 1 over 6 plus or minus, and then you would have your I square root of 107 all over 6. Now, this you can put the I in front or in the back, it'll take that. So you could do this, 1 over 6 plus or minus, or 107 over 6, and then the I. It does it either way on that, okay? What it don't like is if you put the I under the radical accidentally, it will mark that wrong, okay? So the I cannot be under that radical, it's got to be on the outside. But if the calculator spits this out, you just got to split it up, okay? And that's only when MATLAB tells you that this got to look like that A plus the I. Okay. All right, so questions on those 6? All right, well, this one we got to draw. All right, so -3, I got a point. And let's see, +5, I got a point. You know, I just got a parabola that sort of just curves in points. They just want me to find the x-intercepts and then the solutions just using that graph. Oh, and let me tell you, they gave me the function for this was x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. So if you were to factor that, you get a -5 and a +3. Changing the signs, you get a +5 and -3. If you just factor that and solve it. But they just want you to look at the picture and realize that the x-intercepts is these points where it's crossing the x-axis, right? So your x-intercepts got to be in the form of a point. And if they're x-intercepts, that means the y values are automatically going to be
0.
0. So we just got to find them 2 numbers. So this one looks like what, -3, 0? And this one is sitting at a 5, 0. For the solutions, they'll give you this, x equals blank. So it's going in there for my solutions.
So -3 and 5.
The -3 and the 5. And we just want you to realize on this, when you're setting an equation to 0, there's the 0 on the y-axis, right? So anything touching that x has a y value of 0, which makes it a solution, okay? And here comes the 2-word problems. So a wire stretched from the ground to the top of an antenna tower. The wire is 20 feet long, so I know this is 20 feet long. The height of my tower is 4 feet greater than the distance D from the base to the end of the wire. So from this base to the end of the wire, they're calling D, which means my tower is D plus 4. Find the distance D and the height of that tower. So we're finding both the sides that we don't know yet. Which means, once again, I got a right triangle. So I'm going to use what formula? Pythagorean theorem. And we know that was what? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And the only side I'm thinking about is that C squared. It has to be what? There you go, see? Which is my 20. So that side's going to equal 20 squared. A can be D, so I'm going to let that be D squared. B squared will be the D plus 4 squared. So unfortunately, they knocked out a foil a little bit on these problems. So I'm going to take the D plus 4 squared and foil it real quick. And me and him played with numbers to prove that this does have to be foiled. Right, Corey?
Yeah.
So foiling that, you get a D squared plus 4D plus 4D plus 16. I'm going to combine them in like terms. So I did D times D, D times 4, 4 times D, 4 times 4. So both of these multiplied by both of those. And then I'm just going to add the 4 D's in the middle. So I get a D squared plus 8D plus 16. Okay. So now bring down this D squared. Replace this with that. So you get another D squared plus 8D plus 16. 20 squared.
400.
400. So y'all just went past 12 times 12, we do 20 times 20 now. There we go. We're gonna roll now. And the thing what I need to do is add like terms here. Get all this stuff moved to the left side equal to 0, and then we're going to throw it in our quad, right? So this will give me 2D squared plus 8D plus 16 equals 400. I'm then going to subtract my 400. And y'all, you'll notice on these kind of problems when you're doing distances, you're usually going to have a negative over here because one answer will come out positive, one's going to come out negative. If you're talking about distance, you're going away that negative number. Right, I don't got -5 feet from her. You know, I'm 5 feet. We're always positive on our distances, okay? So here we go. 2D squared plus 8D, 16 and negative 400, negative 384, all equal to 0. So at that point, I would probably throw that on my program because that's big numbers. And let's see what we get here. I'm gonna program quad. A was 2, B was 8, and C is a negative 384. So it gives me B equals 12, D equals negative 16. Only one of them answers I'm keeping. Well, I'm gonna throw away this negative number. Although it works for that solution, it does not work for my problem. So that's not negative 16B, right? So now if I know D equals 12, how tall is my tower? 16. For the tower, we said the tower was D plus 4, which is 12 plus 4, which is definitely 16. So you would have to put this answer and then come in and put that answer, okay? You can also check yourself. 16 here, 12 here. 12 squared plus 16 squared will equal what 20 squared equals. So 20 squared was 400. So 12 squared is 144. 16 squared is 256. 144, 256 equal
401.
400. Okay, so not bad. Now you can do the quad by hand on that if you want to, but ooh, big numbers. So you didn't do that to the work recording.
I know, I was like, oh.
You know, all the like.
Yeah, I really don't do me.
All right, so number 9 is the ladder leaning on the wall. So I got me a wall with a ladder leaning on it. And it's not a 6-foot wall with a 30-foot ladder, remember?
Yeah, that is against it.
Looks like they did have that ladder way flat, right? So I do know the foot of my ladder is 5 feet from the wall. The height that the ladder reaches on the wall and the length of the ladder are consecutive integers. So that means if this is x, the ladder is
X plus 1.
x plus 1. And all they want to know, how long is the ladder? But you got to get this to get to the ladder on this one, okay? So once again, I want to use the Pythagorean theorem. So my a squared plus b squared is going to equal c squared. So like I said, a and b can be either one of these sides. So I'll just let a be 5 plus b be the x, square both of those. Unfortunately, the c is an x plus 1 squared. So notice, both of these problems, you're going to have to FOIL that part right there on either one of these, okay? So I'm going to FOIL x plus 1 squared. I did quite a bit of FOILing on this test because the stuff we did yesterday, if I throw a cube at you, you had a lot of FOILing. So let's see, we get x times x is an x squared. X times 1 is just a 1x. 1 times x is a 1x. 1 times 1 is 1. And then I'm just going to add my like terms. So I get x squared plus 2x plus 1. It kills you if you don't FOIL these, right?
Yeah. Leave it right for there.
All right, so pi squared plus my x squared. And then this side we say it equals x squared plus 2x plus 1. Well, what got us was if you didn't FOIL it right, you didn't have that 2x in the middle. Your x squareds canceled, but then we're saying, well, 25 equals 1. That would be a false statement. So that means we somewhere something bad. So at the moment, I see these x squared, which means I'm gonna try to get everything on one side equal to 0, right? But look what happens when I move my x squareds. When I try to move this over, it's canceling on both sides. So all I got left over here is 25. And that's going to equal to 2x plus 1.
That might be two up there
Where?
under on the foiling.
Right here?
Yeah. Or at the end.
Oh, and also which one times 1?
Oh, the multiply.
Remember, you're multiplying all those.
Okay.
That is the biggest mistake I get, though. People will foil this and then they'll go, oh, 1 plus 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Remember, you're still multiplying that thing, okay? So now it's not even quadratic because the x squared terms went away. So all y'all got to do now is solve that for the x. So I'm going to subtract that 1 from both sides. So I get 24 equals 2x. 100 divided by 2. So I know now that my x is 12. But that ain't the answer to the question. They want to know how long is my ladder. So the ladder, well, we're going to say 12 plus 1 equals 13. Okay. Now this question is sort of tricky. That's why on the final, we actually put both answers on it, the side and the ladder, because people will quit at the side and not add the 1 to get the ladder. So the biggest mistake I get on this is they put 12 for the answer instead of 13, okay? Y'all get so excited, oh, I got the X, I'm done, right? So a little bit of physics for the physics boy here. You might get into that, right? All right, Ken, let me draw this real quick. Oh, we got 5 on this. So over here at -2, -3, I got a point, and they're giving it to me, -2, -3. And then this parameter just sort of comes up. But this is a nice problem because they want to know, what's my vertex? Yeah, they gave it to me, -2, -3. Just remember that vertex better be in points as an ordered pair, okay? Then they say, hey, what's the axis of symmetry?
Or x equals negative.
Oh, I was about to say, you were so close. But if you put -2, math lab going to put a big red X. Math lab wants you to put X equals -2, okay? What is the maximum or minimum value?
-3.
-3. So X values are my symmetry line, Y values are that min or max. Now this one we actually can tell is a minimum, but if you didn't have the graph, you'd have to look at that X squared term, remember, see if it was positive or negative. Okay. So what this is sort of giving, because they're giving you the vertex on that one, okay? But then number 11 hit us. And they didn't give me the picture. So number 11. I'm going to find the vertex, axis of symmetry, determine if it's a min or max, and then find that value. So we're basically doing all this without a picture. And then you got to graph it. Now remember, when you graph these, you gotta graph your vertex point first. And then you can find any other point to put on either side, and it'll draw the whole graph, okay? But you gotta start with that vertex you're finding. So here we go, f of x equals 2x squared plus 14x plus 20. Now, I think this one I took off my test because it's going to be fractiony like that one you had on your homework. And I didn't really want to kill you with the fractions on this, but this is like a homework problem you had, okay? So to find the vertex, I know A is 2, B is 14, and C is 20. So on the vertex, I found the x coordinate first. The x coordinate is equal to negative B over 2 times A. That's the first part of your quad formula. Did y'all notice that? All right, so negative times my B over 2 times my A. B was 14, A was 2. So I get what, a negative 14 over 4. I'm going to reduce that down to what?
Negative 7 over 2.
Negative 7 over 2, there you go. Which is now my x coordinate, I know is going to be negative 7 halves. So now I'm going to plug that back into the function and get the y value, okay? But y'all remember, once we got both of these values, I got this problem worked. One's going to be the line of symmetry, one's going to be my min or max, and all that fun stuff, okay? So the y coordinate is going to be f of a negative 7 halves. Now, if I made y'all do all these by hand, I'd be sad. But the calculator can evaluate any fraction you throw in for them x's. You just punch it in like we're about to punch it right here. So I got 2 times negative 7 halves squared plus 14 times negative 7 halves plus 20.
Negative 9 halves.
So are y'all doing it by a calculator? Anybody doing it by hand? Y'all just gonna put it on the calculator? So this equals what?
Negative 9 halves.
I don't know if I let y'all in on that. I had a vertex formula in this calculator. Did I ever let y'all in on that secret? Program go all the way down. Don't you see vertex down there? Do you?
Yeah.
Enter, APC, just like quad. We went all the way to vertex. So go back. There you go. And A was 2, so 2 enter. Well, don't say A, it just has a question mark there because my A went off over him. But B, it says is what, 14? C is 20. You spit it out, I get a negative 3 halves, which is the 7 halves. I get a negative 4.5, which is the negative 9 halves. You know all you got to do to see what those fractions are? Punch in negative 4.5 on your calculator, hit math and enter twice. It'll turn it into that 9 halves, okay? So we always got something to check in here. So what was next? My axis of symmetry, because here's my vertex. Axis of symmetry.
X equals 3.5. Or 7.
Or it could even be the negative 7 halves. Just watch that math lab. If it says integers or fractions, it don't want decimals. So you just gotta watch that thing, okay? Although the calculator program puts it in decimals, you might want to just change them into fractions and be done with that, okay? So, minimum or maximum? term is positive.
Yeah, minimum.
Yeah, 'cause it's gonna look like a parabola. It's definitely gonna have a minimum. And the value of that minimum is,
4.5.
or
-9.
-9. There you go. So I'm not actually gonna graph it, but if I was gonna graph this, I would choose the tool that looks like a parabola. You gotta plot that vertex first. Which was my what, -7 halves, -9 halves. Now this graph is going to be broken down into halves. So -7 halves is 7 ticks left, since they're all in halves. -1 half, -2 halves, -3 halves, -4 halves, all the way up. Or you can make that into a decimal form and you can find -3.5 really quick, okay? Plot the vertex, then you can find any other point you want to. You can hit it with the quadratic formula. That'll show you where it's going across the axis. Factor it, graph that in my calculator, look at the table and find any point I want on that, okay? So whatever how you can get another point, go to it, okay? All right, 12 is a true or false. Ooh, let me get there. I just gotta watch them because they're getting really tight on this COVID. And I don't want to get like written up or y'all get written up. So if you see anyone done, just slide it up real quick. The popo will be looking around on it, y'all. They take their COVID serious here. You know what I mean? Anyone was there in the spring, you would know. All right, number 12, determine if this is true or false. So what's sad really is children just starting to get like, they said they had like 11 or 12 kids that are like sick in ICU now. Average age of the COVID was really like in the 70s, and
Yeah, really old.
now it's getting into the 50s and it's dropping every. I don't know if we ever gonna whoop that thing, right? All right, so here we go. The graph of h of x equals x minus 5 squared can be obtained by translating the graph h of x equals x squared, right, 5 units. True or false? True, because we said long ago, when it's inside the parentheses, it's left to right. And negative, you think goes left, but it really goes to the right. So this was definitely true. Well, they don't change that question up too bad. All right, 13 is the long one. They want me to find the vertex, determine if it's a min or max value and that value, find the range, that's the y values, intervals where it's increasing and decreasing, which is about the x values. And I ain't got to graph this one at least, okay? So my function is f of x equals x squared minus 10x plus 16. So I'm gonna find that vertex, because if I find that vertex, that's answered almost all these questions, other than maybe the interval stuff, okay? A is a 1, B is -10, C is 16. So remember, I'm gonna find my x coordinate first. So I use a -b over 2 times A. So let's see, B was -10, A was 1. So what you really want on this is this to be a 1 in the front, and that B to be even number. That eliminates the fractions. Because you're dividing by that 2 there. So I get what, a 10 over 2? So I know the first part of my vertex is a 5. Now to find the volume, we'll put 5 back into that equation. So f of 5 is going to equal 5 squared minus 10 times 5 plus 16. And remember, when you're finding the y, the second term is always negative and double whatever you get on that first one. So 5 squared is 25. So this is automatically going to be a -50. And then plus my 16. But y'all, 100% of the time, that second number was negative and twice as big as that first one, okay? So that when you do 25 minus 50, you're getting a -25, and then -25 plus 16, -9, right? Which is now my y value. So this one, if you did the vertex formula, spit that out really quick. All right, so let's see, that was my vertex. Is it got a max or min? Minimum. So that's +1 up there. So is this a max or minimum of what?
-9.
-9. So maybe at this point it would help you to draw some. So you just know you got a parabola here. And over here at 5, -9 is your minimum. So just remember this was 5, -9. Okay? Because next I want to find the range. The range is y values. Starting from the minimum going up.
-9.
So right at -9 will be a bracket, because remember, it does include that -9, so it's a -9 on the range, we gotta use a bracket, okay? So that is actually a part of it that makes it true. Now, if you had a maximum, your range would be from -infinity to that number with the bracket, okay? If that was flipped over. It's gotta go from bottom up on the range, okay? All right, next was, all I wanna know is if there's places where it's increasing or decreasing. Oh, no, smile, you're on candid camera if we're filming, so you don't even have to worry about that. We caught you coming in, so you went right through the screen when you walked through. So remember, increasing, I'm only looking at the X values where this starts increasing and where it goes to.
5 to infinity.
5 to infinity. And remember, on these, we always use parentheses. And that's because that 5 can't be both increasing and decreasing. All right, well, let's see if you can get my decreasing.
-infinity to 5.
-infinity to 5. And when you're dealing with parabolas, it's got to be one end at that -infinity and the other end's got to be at the positive, okay? Same thing for 14. I'm gonna find the vertex, max min, range, increase and decreasing. All right, so 14, we got f of x equals negative 4x squared minus 4x plus 9. Daddy, we're filming, so I'll be able to send this whole film out and you'll see everything I done from the beginning, okay? Hey, also A is now a negative 4, B is a negative 4, C is a positive 9. We won't get no scared because that ain't a 1 in front of that A, so hopefully I don't get no ugly fractions on this. We'll see. X coordinate is negative B over 2 times A. So that's a negative 4 up there and a negative 4 there. Oh, well, unfortunately, looks like I'm getting a 4 over a negative 8. So I'm going to get what, a negative 1/2. So when I was calculating, you should have got like a negative 0.5 or something on that. All right, so here goes my y coordinate. I'm going to find f of a negative 1/2. So that would be negative 4 times negative 1/2 squared minus 4 times negative 1/2 plus 9. So you're pushing all that on the calculator, what it gives us? 10? Even 10? Which means my vertex is now going to be a negative 1/2 and a 10. So calculator said what, negative 0.5 and 10. Let's get it on that pretty quick. So the question on this one, do I got a min or max? Yeah, because that thing's now a negative. So what that did is that flipped my graph over. Okay, so I do have a max of
10.
10. Range is next. Now remember, this graph was flipped over, and this point we said was negative 1/2 and 10. So my question is, what's my range?
Negative 10.
In a 10, they're using a
Bracket, because it includes.
bracket. There you go. The only thing I got left is what? Increasing and decreasing. So it's increasing from
Negative infinity to negative 1/2.
and then it's decreasing from
Negative 1/2.
I'm going to be sort of sad if you miss any of these because you're getting them all right in my class. Hopefully the pressure of the test don't mess him up, right? And it's funny, y'all be telling me all the answers in here, then y'all lose your confidence when you open my test.
Oh, I know.
You'll start doubting yourself. Oh no, I didn't do that right. And then you start redoing it, and you done change the correct answer 5 times into a wrong one. Okay, so the last vertex one deals with the little rocket. You know, I'm just gonna write a formula basically. But the rocket is shooting up the air from a launching pad 6 feet above the ground. Initial velocity of 168 feet per second. So to give me a formula, the height of this rocket, that's what the H is for, at any time t is like my x's on this one, is given by negative 16 t squared plus 168 t plus 6. So I want to know how long will it take my rocket to reach its maximum height, which is the t variable, And then what is my maximum height? So I'm gonna come in again and play with my vertex stuff. So I'm gonna get my x coordinate, which is actually my t coordinate for this problem. So negative b over 2a. So I got 168 going in on the top, negative 16 on the bottom. All right, so I get a negative 168 over negative 32. Ooh, I don't know how that's got died now, but we'll see. Now this answer, they don't mind decimals on this one. It's not restricting you to only fractions on this one. Mine came out to 5.25. So I'm just gonna keep it at 5.25. Let me make for sure my answers are doing that. What's this number, 15? So they use that for 5.25. Now, so this is actually the t. Now we're gonna find that height. So we're gonna find the y coordinate, which will be h of 5.25. So I'm just gonna take this and put the 5.25 in for my t's. So punching that in is, what did y'all get, 447, which is my height. Okay. No, that's pretty high, because if it's about 10 feet of floor in a building, right, that's like 40 feet, 41, 42 stories. I did rocket yesterday, right? So if y'all are all lucky and here in March, we'll have Rocket Day next year probably. It's in March usually. They have like a Rocket Day where we shoot rockets and they show you all little formulas that you can use for all that. Physics, boys. We always have Pi Day, but can't have Pi Day in a COVID. So they have a bunch of pies and y'all can taste them and judge them and a lot of circle stuff because that's where pi is at, right? If you notice, schools like to feed y'all a lot and have carnivals. We have spring fling, fall fest, all this stuff where they grill hot dogs and chips and drinks and put your hand in wax and make wax hands and stuff. So y'all went here last year? But we had them all canceled, see, so. Domain, determine the domain. F of x equals square root of 4x minus 5. And I'm just using set builder notation, which is the x is real and all that kind of stuff. So to find the domain of this, I know that this 4x minus 5 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Right? It could be 0, but it can't be a negative number because that's where those imaginary numbers came from. So these are the ones that use the brackets for their domains. Radicals use the brackets, fractions use only the parentheses, okay? So solve that by adding 5. So 4x is greater than or equal to 5, and then I'm going to divide by that 4. So the x has to be greater than or equal to 5/4. You know, since you got the answer, find the one answer that matches your answer you just got. Because they'll have, all the boxes will have an x such that, and then we want x is greater than or equal to 5/4. Now they'll try to use the not equal sign here, but it could be 0 under here and be legal, and that's what that's doing to it, okay? So it's gotta be greater than or equal. You know what they do to make sure they flip the little things around? Or they put the not equal stuff on them? If we don't flip that enough, we divide by what? Negative numbers.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
On this one, what are you saying? Why do we use that instead of?
Oh, because the range, since 10 was the bottom dot, the bottom range on your parabola,
Mhm.
10 is included as a vital number on that, that's your vertex point. So you gotta include that 10, so that's why we use the brackets.
Okay.
Brackets include that number. Parentheses means you can get close to that number, but you can't equal it.
So,
I can get right up to that 10, 9.99999, but I cannot equal exactly 10. But on my range, I can.
okay.
Okay.
So since that's a maximum, right?
Doing
Or
that,
no? Never mind.
was that the one that flipped over? And it went from the negative infinity to the 10? Yes, so that was a max because that x squared term was negative on that one.
Okay.
That's all you look at for the min and max. Is it positive x squared, it's a min. If it's negative, it flips to the made a max. Okay?
Okay.
All right, 17, you're going to graph f of x equals square root of x minus 7. And you can graph this on the calculator if you want to, but all you got to do is pick one of these 4 graphs. Now, I know what that negative 7 is doing to my square root. Because you're treating these radicals like they're parentheses, right? Radicals are treated just like parentheses. So if I'm taking 7 away from my x, I'm actually moving to the
Right.
right?
But if you flip it to 7, because you're in the radical.
But remember, since I'm in parentheses, when I subtract from my x's, I don't really move left, I move right. Now, if that negative 7 had been outside, it would have just pulled it down. So the outside move does what you think with that plus or minus, but all this inside, because you really, if x is 7, 7 minus 7 would be 0. So the value I got at 7 is now shifted all the way right for that other value, okay? So what you're picking is the graph that's over here at 7 and shooting out. Did you graph that real quick? Hit that square root, x minus 7 under there, and it's actually going to move right, okay? Oops, I needed the paper, not the graph.
You have to put it in parentheses.
No, if you're using the radical on the calculator, you can see what I'm doing. But yours is plus 6. Now, if you did mine, which is minus 7, if you did minus 7 and then wrapped it, I could have kicked it way over there. Okay? You had had that in there already, that plus 6.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, 18 sort of the same, but it's a g of x equals square root of 7x minus 6. Not gonna be like that. So one thing I do know, since that's a minus 6, it actually would move it right. So if you want to see where it starts from, all you got to do is set this thing equal or greater than 0. And it would give you the starting point, then you just draw your little parabola, okay? I'll probably just graph these quickest way. If you graph that on your calculator, you will get one that moves to the right. And it sort of looks like now, what the 7's doing to it, it sort of stretches it a little bit, okay? So the disk would look like a graph, should look like that. And your graph did give you something similar to that, didn't it?
Yeah.
And just remember, on the test, my scale is 5 and that's on a 10. So that's why you might see a little difference, but you can see where the graph looks over, okay? All right, then we hit piecewise functions. So they gave me an f of x equals x minus 5, 4, x less than -2. It equals x squared, 4, -2 less than or equal to x, which is less than 5. And then it equals 6x, 4, any x greater than or equal to 5. What equation would I use to find f of 5? No, I don't care what value I get, I just want to know what equation. 6x, because it tells me right here, hey, if x equals 2 or greater than 5, you want to use this equation. So all you got to do is put the 6x and be done with that, okay? All right, so that I didn't have to draw this one, I'm going to put it on the screen back there. And what we're going to look for is increasing, decreasing, and constant. These are sort of hard to draw by hand. So let me see, I'm going to share my actual problem where I got this off of. Oh, it looks like I froze at 16. Dang it. Our internet up here is not what I would consider the best. So y'all should be able to see that right there, right on the wall back there on the TV. I need to zoom in maybe a little more. I think I've zoomed at max. So I'll tell you, that little hump starts at -6.3, it looks like. -6.3 on that hump. And then my point's where it's going flatter from -4 over to about -1. And then it goes up on the 0, and then it goes over, okay? So increasing is where I'm going uphill. So the far left of my graph, it starts going uphill. And it starts over here, way at negative infinity. And it goes up until I hit the x value of -6. Now these ones, we just got to separate them by commas instead of using the unions and stuff, okay? Because we're not doing intervals, we're just using sections where they're increasing and stuff. So there'll be a comma right here. It's increasing again.
-1 to 0.
From -1 to 0, it's got a sharp uphill line, okay? So I got me a pointer, y'all. So here's where we went uphill. Started at negative infinity until I hit right here, which was -6. And then he started going up right here at -1 on the x's and stop right there at 0 on the x's. Right? Back in the day, I could get knuckles with this, didn't get in trouble. Now, wake up. Decreasing. How many sections on this graph are actually decreasing? Just one? So decreasing from where to where?
So -6 to -4.
Which really means everything else has got to be constant. So my first constant section goes from -4 to -1. My second constant goes from
0
We'll be done. Okay. So let me go back to my camera. I can draw that next one actually. All right, so this one we got our picture. All right, so over here at, they're telling me at -3.5 and 4.25. So I'll write that for you. -3.5, 4.25. And then I just got me a little parabola dropping down. Don't really care about where it's crossing that x-axis. We don't need to worry about that. They are telling me that this is the function f of x equals -x squared minus 7x minus 8. But we don't even really need that. Does this graph have a relative minimum or relative maximum? So I got a relative maximum. So here we go. The relative maximum occurs at x equals blank and has a value of blank. So it happens at x equals,
-3.5.
it has a value of 4.25. There you go. So still keeping on with that x and y stuff, okay?
So when it asks for that, like it's doing it, it's assuming that already saying it's.
Well, when you click this box, it says relative maximum, it's gonna put maximum here. Now, if you click relative minimum, guess what? It'll put minimum there, making you think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna assume that you think you're right, this one will make you pick the minimum answer to go with that. Okay? So your possibility, if you miss the max or min, you're possible missing two parts of that question because that's automatically gonna give you the wrong one, okay? All right, increasing. And then decrease. Oh, looks like it's increasing on the left side. So starting out here at
-infinity,
and increase until it hits.
-3.5,
Well, the decrease has to start at
-3.5,
and head to
infinity.
infinity. Okay. So a parabola is going to have a negative infinity and an infinity both on it with those two intervals together. Okay. I'm still moving, so that's not frozen. All right, this one has the same thing, but it's got a couple humps to it. So over here at, we'll just say this point right here is -8, -1. And then I'm gonna have a point over here. It's gonna be -4, -9. So this one comes down like that. This one goes to that one, and then it goes up. Theirs will be a little prettier curve than mine, but all we need is 2 points. So it says the relative max is blank at x equals blank. The relative min is blank at x equals blank.
-1 and -8.
So they're telling you actually got, one of both of these, right? So what's going right here?
-1.
And then that x of,
-8.
hey, good job. And then my minimum is blank
-9,
at x equals
-4.
-4. So what you gotta watch on this problem is that over here, we was going through putting the value first and then the x. No, I mean, we put the x's first, then the value. So over here, you're putting the value first and then the x. They're sort of going backwards on the way they ask that, okay? They're trying to trick y'all up. Just gotta watch it, okay? Oh, so where's it increasing?
So -4 to infinity. Right?
Well, partly.
Yeah, it's negative infinity to -8.
Yeah, it's got 2 parts where this graph's going uphill, going uphill right here and going uphill right there. So separate that, and then he said -infinity to -8. Now, order does not matter what you put these in there. What matters is you better put a comma in between those 2 intervals. It'll mark them wrong because it thinks you're multiplying them if there's not commas in there, okay? Mathematics is a little picky thing. Decreasing.
-8 to -4.
Yeah, the only part where my graph is going downhill, remember, read left to right on those and you'll be good to go. So we gotta go left to right, because time always goes to the right on these graphs. Okay? We haven't really got that time travel down yet. All right, I'm gonna give you a piecewise function, x of x. Is gonna be -2x minus 12 for x is less than -7. It's gonna equal 4, -7, less than or equal to x, less than 4. And then it's gonna equal x plus 8. For any x's greater than or equal to -4. We're gonna find h of -10, h of -3, h of 4, and then h of 9. And the reason I wanted to do all 25 of mine also is because some of these were homework questions that people were having troubles on, like that range stuff. So I guess my first question, which equation can I use for a -10?
-2x minus 12.
Yeah, 'cause that's for anything that's at -7. So take this equation, -2x, put that -10 in for the x. So I guess that's what, a 20, and then 20 minus 12. You get 8. Okay. So then I will the h of -3.
Would we use 4?
Yeah, because -3 is definitely in between a -7 and a 4, which tells me to use the second equation. So this means automatically this equals, that's sort of like a constant part right there. So if you're drawing this part would be constant between -7 and 4 because it always equals 4, okay? H of 4.
X plus 8.
Yeah, because down here you got equals and x equals 4, makes that true. So instead of x, I'm going to put a 4 plus 8. So we get a 12. So my answers were 8, 4, and 12 so far. How about h of 9?
X plus 8.
Same equation, because that's bigger than 4 again. So that'll be what, a 9 plus 8. So I get what up? 17, okay? So I like this this stuff ain't too bad. Graphs are tricky, I ain't gonna lie. And we always like getting domains and ranges mixed up, brackets and curves and stuff, so. I will say I took off 5 of the longer problems. So some of those with that range and stuff that were too long, I thought, some of them I took off and stuff, okay? Never you mind say that, actually, 220. No, tell me how you get that off. All right, we're gonna do the difference quotient, which is f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So we give you the formula. My f of x is going to be -9x plus 4. Now, this is what I put on here for a give me for y'all. Because that is a straight line, and we know the slope of that straight line is
-9.
-9. So when you're done with this, you better get a -9 to your answer, okay? Now, when I throw the curves at us and stuff, we can't really do that. So first we would find f of x plus h, which equals -9 times x plus h plus 4. I will distribute that -9 to get rid of the parentheses. So -9x, -9h plus my 4. And if you also remembered, anything that don't have an h on my next step is about to cancel out. So f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. So to find f of x plus h, plug it into the formula. -9x minus 9h plus 4. I gave you f of x, which is -9x plus 4. So here we go. -9x cancels with a negative times a -9x, which makes this positive. So that cancels. And if you get the signs wrong, here's what I'm going to tell you a little trick. No matter what you get over here, cancel the 2 that look like it over here. Because it will 100%. So whether you got the wrong sign or not, you still cancel them out. Okay? Because everything in the second parentheses got to cancel. So all that's left is that little -9h over h, and you did one more step.
Take out the h.
So that I ended up with a,
-9.
which is the slope of that line, okay? So to prevent you from doing that 2 times in a row, I throw the curve at you with the x squared in there, okay? Had to make you foil something once, right? On 25, they're giving me the same problem, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. And they're giving me f of x equals 5x squared plus 5x plus 5. And this is a good problem to save some of your old homework problems on. Because I'm about to foil that x plus h stuff again that we foiled yesterday. We even cubed it yesterday, remember? So, I'm first going to find f of x plus h. That's going to equal 5 times x, which is x plus h squared, plus 5 times x plus h, plus my 5 at the end. Now, since y'all saved what this x plus h squared equals, I'm just going to move into that, bring down my 5, and I foiled x plus h on the side. That would have gave me an x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. No matter what, y'all's x plus h squared is going to equal the same thing that I just put in parentheses, okay? Now I'm just going to bring everything else down. Now I'm going to, so all I really did on that step was play with this exponent. Now I'm going to do all my distributing. I got a lot of 5s that I'm going to start distributing through these parentheses. So this one will give me 5x squared plus 10hx plus 5h squared. So I did that. Now I'm going to do the second one. 5x plus 5h plus my 5 at the end. Sadly, I don't see any like terms. No like terms at all on this. So what I'm going to do, let me make a little room here. I'm going to take all of that minus my f of x all over my h. So let me see if I can squish all that in here. 5x squared, 10hx plus 5h squared plus 5x plus 5h plus 5. Whew. F of x they gave me, 5x squared plus 5x plus 5. But y'all, if you got to this point, this eliminates the stuff that don't have an h. Bring that stuff down and then divide by the h, okay? Let's watch this. 5x squared. 5x squared are down. 5x. 5x is gone. 5 and 5 are gone. You should have 3 things left up here, which is the 10hx plus the 5h squared plus the 5h all divided by h. So the only question, what's my final answer?
10x plus 5h plus 5.
And you know, all we did was divide everybody on top by 1h, pull them out, and we were done. Okay. So 20 of them 25, y'all got to worry about. So if you play your study guides and stuff, you'll sort of see what's on there. Your test is just like your study guides. Okay. We're not starting chapter 8 today. We will wait till tomorrow. Because I want y'all to play with this first, get feel of this test. Test is due Sunday. Bonuses are due Sunday by then. Anyone want a paper copy? Oh, okay. So I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll send this out later.